Hey traders, Jason here from Lever Brothers. In this video, I'm going to review some trades. Okay, some of these were profiled at Lever Brothers, others were just discussed on our message board either by myself or some of our subscribers. In any case, the purpose is to review trades so you can train your eyes to see them, okay? So you can role play, so you can think about what you would do in certain situations, how you'd manage them, where you might add, okay? So you look at enough trades, you become comfortable with the setups, you're better able to execute. Okay, so let's go through some of these. But before I get started, just a quick reminder, be sure to check out my free Masterclass in trading class at the link below. I'm currently working on developing a full Masterclass, so you'll want to check out the free scaled back version first before we get into the full class. All right, so let's get into it. Let's get into this video. All right, so what we have here, we have in all these slides except one, which I'll point out, we have the daily chart on the left and the hourly on the right. Okay, so with BC here, and I'm going to focus mostly on the far right side of the chart, not what happened a few months ago, but I kind of set the stage with talking about what happened a few months ago. Okay, so you have like a W bottom pattern. First move up crosses the MACD, then you get a move down, which does a little kiss here. At the same time, the stochastic cycles down and goes up. Okay, then the stock sits up here, consolidates at a higher level, and then it breaks out. So I want to look at what takes place in the pattern up here. Okay, so I like to buy uptrending stocks. I want to buy a pullback within an uptrend. So as this stock goes up, it starts forming this pattern here. So I can draw some trend lines. Okay, so I'm going to focus on this pullback within the uptrend. Okay, so number one, you have the MACD is trending up, okay? And then you get the stochastic, which cycles down here and then comes back up. So like right around here, you got MACD pointing up, stochastic, which has cycled down and points up. Then I want to zoom in, okay? What I generally do is I look for I get a bias from a higher time frame chart, and then I zoom in with a shorter time frame chart to look for an entry. So in this case, I'm getting an up bias from the daily, and then I'm going to zoom in with the hourly. So you get a little bit of a divergence here on the right side. Okay, so this entire thing here, I'm not doing a good job there, is essentially this here. Okay, so you're going to get a little bit of a divergence here. The MACD crosses up, stochastic has been moving up. The stock comes up here, gets propped up at a little bit higher level. If you zoom in on the 15-minute chart, you have a pretty good resistance line here. Stock goes up, gets propped up, sits on top of a couple moving averages, and then takes off from there. Okay, so my goal, I want to buy a dip within an uptrend, and this is a stock which is in an uptrend. Here's a dip, here's a dip. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to look for a chance to buy a dip. I used to almost exclusively buy breakouts. It worked kind of, but man, you had to be really good with, if it worked, you got to really add fast. If it didn't work, you got to get out fast because you could retrace back to the bottom of the pattern. I do a heck of a lot more I look for patterns on the daily charts, exactly the same as I used to do, but now I do more buying dips within the pattern when I get when the indicators act really well. Okay, so that was a good one. Next chart is PS. All right, so similar pattern here. You got a little W-shaped bottom pattern. Notice that get rid of those. Right. So notice that like the first move up, these moving averages are so far apart, it's hard for the stock to fight through them. Stock drops back down. Second time up, now the gap between the moving averages is a lot closer, so it has a lot better chance. So again, we get it like W bottom pattern. First move up crosses the MACD, then the MACD stays in the crossed up position during this pullback. This pullback allows the stochastic to cycle down and reassert itself. All right, so I would consider this an uptrend, and so what I want to do is I want to focus on, we have a pullback within an uptrend here, a pullback within an uptrend here, a pullback within an uptrend here. Okay, I want to identify an uptrend, and then I want to buy pullbacks within the uptrend. Keep it pretty simple. MACD is up, which gives us an up bias. Stochastic helps us with timing entries. So if I zoom in here, this first one here is this one right here. Okay, there's a little bit of a divergence here, not much. Okay, MACD histogram crosses up, stochastic moving up, so that, and then it came down to the hourly 50, which is a nice place to find some support. Trend resumes itself. Okay, then this, you get a little bit of a divergence here. Same thing, MACD crosses up, stochastic is pointing up. This tells us the uptrend is going to reassert itself. Over here, we didn't get a divergence, but we just, MACD crossed up, stochastic pointing up. Okay, so bias comes from the long-term time frame, and then we can zoom in, look for entries. It's nice if you get a divergence. It's nice if this, you get an obvious divergence here. It's nice if they're spread out enough that the stochastic can cycle. It's nice if it comes down to a certain moving average. Okay, things I look for, but you don't get perfection all the time. So as you trade, you'll get a little bit more comfortable saying, hey, it didn't meet all my criteria. But, in this case, this is one of my favorite things I look for, is that it comes down. You don't know where it could have easily kept going like this. You don't know. But then it jumps up, and right here it spends, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours sitting on top of some key moving averages here. Okay, let me see if I can delete that. So you can see it better here. So you see where it just kind of sits up there. That's like my key. That's my hint that, like, we have a downtrend here within an uptrend, and then it jumps off the low, gets perched up on a couple of moving averages for several hours, and then continues on. And then this continues on. It goes from like the low 16s all the way up to 19. I mean, that's a great trade. You make 2.5, 3 points. I mean, you're not going to make that much. You only want to get like the middle chunk. If you miss the top or bottom 10 or 15%, that's fine and that's normal. But if you just get the middle chunk out of that, that's 2 points. If you do that over and over and over, you're a full-time trader. All right, next one, BLMN. Okay, I've profiled this one before. W bottom pattern, first move up, crosses the MACD. Okay, then while the MACD stays in the crossed up direction, stochastic cycles back down. Stock comes up, forms a resistance level there, breaks out. Okay, so now let's focus on over here. So we got a lower low here. MACD is basically flat right here. So it's not bullish or bearish. It very easily could come down here and reassert, or it could cross down. We don't know, but I consider it to be basically flat. I like the lower low here. I've traded long enough, and I know what it's like to be long a stock that makes a lower low, and I get stopped out, and then it bounces, and I realize, like, I was the moron who sold at the low. So I look for a lower low, and then it bounces back and closes at the high of the day. That's a great sign. Stochastic moves down and then cycles back up. So I'm starting to get like uptrend, pull back with an uptrend, and I'm starting to see signs of a reassertion of the uptrend. So I zoom in here. I'm going to point something out that I haven't pointed out before. I personally like when I see a divergence, I want the divergence to sit on the same side of the zero line. So I consider this a great divergence. That's like my favorite. Okay, Alexander Elder, who has written several books, you've probably at least heard of him, or you've maybe even read some of his books. He prefers a divergence where the MACD histogram goes to the other side of the zero line and then comes back down. So he would consider this to be a divergence. Personally, I don't like that. I like these shorter term divergences that play out over fewer candles, where you just get consecutive humps on the same side. But you know what? Many ways to attack the market. Neither one of us are right or wrong. You just kind of do what works for you. So noting this, without even looking at the divergence, I just see a lower low, which kind of traps some of the bulls. They panic. We have a resistance line here that shows up on the shorter term chart. MACD crosses, stochastic is pointing up. Notice how right here, after the stock jumps off the bottom, it gets perched up here for 6-7 hours, which is perfect. I love that. I love a low print, and then it jumps off of that and then gets perched above a couple moving averages for several hours, while the indicators at the same time start turning up. And then I'm looking for a continuation of that. This one was harder to trade because yesterday morning we got a gap up. There was a chance to get in here near the top of this pattern, but hey, it happens. Sometimes you got like a really good setup, and it you just can't find an entry because it just gaps and just acts in a way that just is not comfortable to you or not familiar to you. But a lot of times you do get an entry. So still want to go over it because it's good. Again, it's good to train your eye to see these things. All right, Car Gurus. Really nice pattern here. All this wavy stuff is good. First one crosses up here, and then you get stochastic cycles down, helps with the timing and entry. Stochastic cycles down, helps timing the entry. Okay, got resistance line here. Stock breaks out, comes back, tests the breakout area, and then continues up. So I consider this right here to be a dip within an uptrend. So I'm going to zoom in there and see, see what we got. So what I see here, we don't really get a divergence. We see it comes down to the hourly 200. We don't really get a divergence here, but it does kind of move. MACDs move together. We do get a cross up here, stochastic pointing up. So I'd prefer a divergence down here, but we didn't get it. This one was a little harder because gap between these moving averages is kind of big, and when it jumped up here, I would have preferred 4, 5, 6 candles of sideways movement into the moving averages before it continued up. See if I can delete that. But instead, what we got here is we just got price right over here, just kind of grinded up, and it never really rested. And then we got a gap up yesterday. So the trade was there. This over here is like a perfect, a perfect pullback within an uptrend. Come over here, we didn't get a great divergence, but we did get a good level here. And then when it moved off the low, it just kind of moved, and we didn't really get that sideways movement that I liked, and that's just the way it goes, okay? So if you're a good skilled trader and you've traded this pattern 100 times, you probably could recognize what's going on and you can jump in. If you're not, then you just end up not being able to see where the entry is, and you end up just watching it and taking note and moving on to the next trade. It happens, okay? Sometimes you have perfectly good stocks that are acting really well that you just can't figure out how to get into. All right, one more. INO, this is with the hourly here, and this is the 15 because the stock was moving faster, so I had to zoom in on closer time frames. Okay, got a nice sequence here. Okay, we got a cross up, stochastic up. Okay, then it stays crossed here. We got a nice, MACD kiss right there is what I call. At the same time, we get a cross here. This is what my kiss and cross trade is, where the MACD comes down and kisses, and then stochastic crosses up. All right, so then let's focus in over here. We have resistance level at 11. So here the stock's getting perched up with resistance at 11. So let's zoom into that. That's over here on the 15-minute chart. It's getting cupped by the 50 MA, resistance there. Another thing I look for is MACD here. We got, an up, down, up motion. Okay, if you don't, sometimes I'll look at the humps of the MACD histogram. Other times I'll just look at the movement that we got in, like an up, resting period, and then up, and that coincides with up, resting period as stock kind of gets squeezed between the moving average and resistance, and then it continues up. So not a bad trade with this one either. All right, nothing fancy here. These indicators are all available for free from any broker. Nothing proprietary, no secrets here. Just a few moving averages and 2 different indicators. Okay, after that, it all comes down to just position sizing and trade management. Thanks for listening. You can follow my YouTube channel right here by clicking on the red subscribe button. Come check out Leavitt Brothers, where we offer market analysis and trading ideas to the financial community. And again, check out the mini masterclass in trading, which is posted below. It's free. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.